No one remembered when Earth stopped being a backwater planet. It just happened. Quietly. Slowly. A few trade deals. A couple of mercenaries hired out. Then suddenly the humans were everywhere, on stations, on freighters, in the command ranks of fringe armies. Nobody had feared them at first. They were considered quaint, emotional, loud, passionate, weak. Then came the Vindicator. The Vindicator wasn't just a ship. It was a floating monstrosity, built from the bones of a broken armada, forged in a gravity well where no other species dared to mine. It was stitched together from a dozen different technologies, half of them stolen, and the rest barely understood. The hull was made of neutron-bonded titanium ceramic, rumored to be scavenged from a dead star's crust. It carried no insignia, no flag, only a single phrase scorched into its armor in 27 languages. "We offered peace. You chose war." The first time it appeared, it didn't fire a shot. It just dropped into orbit above Eris Prime, a trade world run by the Vuldari Consortium, and sent a single signal. "Evacuate." The Vuldari laughed. All 12 clans gathered their fleets, some 500 ships strong. They expected an easy win. Even as Vindicator held its position, silent and cold, they came in full force. Then the lights on the human warship flickered. No one knows what happened next exactly, because every Vuldari ship's black box was wiped clean. But planetary sensors picked up a single, massive energy surge, the kind not even fusion drives could replicate. And in just 17 seconds, the entire Vuldari fleet was gone. Not destroyed. Gone. No wreckage. No debris. Just silence, like the stars themselves held their breath. That was the moment the galaxy realized they had made a mistake. Humans weren't just another species trying to claw their way up the interstellar ladder. They were a storm, and the Vindicator was their thunderclap. Over the next few months, the ship became legend. Whole governments surrendered the moment it entered their system. Pirate kings abandoned fortresses they'd ruled for decades. Alien warlords scrubbed their systems of anything remotely human, terrified of provoking its return. Captain Ilara Voss was the woman behind the legend, though no one really saw her face. She was never caught on any official records. No interviews, no transmissions, nothing. Just ghost stories passed between soldiers and smugglers. A human with cold eyes and a voice like ice water, who once whispered a command and caused a planet to shut down its power grid for 3 days without firing a single weapon. The ship moved in silence, always. It spoke only when necessary, and it never negotiated. Once the Vindicator set its course, surrender was the only option. Those who didn't were erased. There were whispers, of course, that the ship held a weapon banned by the Galactic Council, that it was powered by a captured singularity, that its crew were all dead, their minds uploaded into a hive AI that felt no mercy. No one knew the truth. But the most terrifying thing wasn't what the Vindicator could do. It was that the humans had built more than one. The galaxy had pushed humanity too far. After decades of ridicule, border raids, and betrayals, Earth had decided enough was enough. The Galactic Council tried to summon them for diplomacy, but the humans didn't respond. Not with words. They responded with a ship. Now the Council sat in quiet fear, each member looking to the stars and wondering if they'd be next. On a cold outer moon in the Kestran system, a small mining outpost picked up a signature they hoped they'd never see again, a human transponder code broadcasting from deep space. The code was old, obsolete, but it belonged to the Vindicator. The outpost commander, a graying Drexy named Vorlin Krax, stared at the transmission screen with his 3 eyes squinting. His tendrils twitched with unease. That transponder code, It was unmistakable. Human, yes, but not just any human ship. This was the one. The code had been locked in every Council database, tagged with 17 separate threat markers. It hadn't been seen in over a cycle. Most had assumed the Vindicator had gone dark, or had been destroyed. But now it was moving. And it was heading straight toward Kestrin Moon 4. He hit the emergency comms switch and tried to signal high command, his voice cracking with the effort to stay calm. "This is Krax. Mining Outpost 14. We have a code red contact. Human warship. Identification matches Vindicator. Repeat, Vindicator inbound." Silence, not even static. Then came a soft clicking noise, followed by a voice. Low, human, and impossibly calm. "Your transmission has been intercepted. You will not contact the Council. Evacuate now." Krax froze. That voice. It was a whisper, like someone was speaking directly into the back of his skull. His staff, all 7 species, stared at him, wide-eyed, motionless. They'd heard it too. "No weapons detected, no defenses activated. We are not here for you," the voice continued. "But you are in our path. Leave within the next hour." Then the line went dead. Panic didn't break immediately. It cracked slowly, like glass under pressure. His crew whispered first. Then someone ran. Then a junior tech screamed and smashed the alarm. Klaxons blared and lights shifted to crimson. The outpost turned to chaos. Krax stood silently at the comm station, breathing heavily. The old Drexy was no coward, but he had fought in 2 border skirmishes and seen enough human tactics to know one thing. They didn't bluff. Especially not that ship. He barked at the remaining officers. "Scramble the transports. Get the miners out now. Don't take anything. Just go." "But the ore," someone began. "Leave it," Krax growled. "You think rocks are worth more than your life?" The ships launched in waves. Small haulers, old shuttles, anything that could get off the moon. They didn't wait to form ranks or check manifests. Just escape. An hour passed. Nothing happened. Then, from the black of space, the Vindicator emerged. It didn't jump in with the usual energy flash or warp distortion. It just appeared, like it had always been there, cloaked in darkness, waiting. Its silhouette eclipsed a good portion of the mining moon's upper horizon. Lights ran down its spine like a sleeping predator, each one pulsing slowly, rhythmically. The ship made no sound, but every being who looked at it felt something deep in their gut twist and turn. The outpost was empty now, save for Krax and his assistant, a young Joran named Thal. Thal refused to leave. "I have to see it," he'd said. "I need to know why they're feared." Now, watching the Vindicator settle into low orbit, Krax regretted letting him stay. The ship didn't fire. It didn't scan. It didn't even acknowledge them. Instead, it opened a single bay, massive and silent, and from it, a much smaller ship emerged. Sleek, sharp-edged, blacker than the void around it. Thal leaned forward. "Is that another warship?" "No," Krax muttered. "That's a message." The smaller craft descended, slow and steady. It landed precisely on the now empty mining pad outside the base. No landing gear. It just hovered inches above the surface and powered down. No lights, no entry ramp. Just stillness. Thal looked at Krax, who was already rising. "You're not seriously going out there?" "I want to see it too," Krax said grimly. They suited up and exited the station. The cold bit through even their thermals. The small craft stood like a monolith. No markings, no sound. Then, without a sound, the surface of the ship rippled. A small panel slid open, revealing a single item inside, a sealed case. Krax approached it slowly. The case was plain. Metal, human design. No locks. Inside, nestled in black foam, was a data crystal. Krax didn't touch it. Thal did. The moment his fingers brushed it, the ship behind them vanished. Not lifted off. Not cloaked. It simply wasn't there anymore. The data crystal pulsed once in Thal's hand. Krax stared at it like it was a ticking bomb. "What the hell did they just give us?" he whispered. Thal's face was pale. His voice shook. I think it's a list." Thal held the crystal like it was radioactive. His hands trembled, eyes locked on the pulsing glow at its center. Krax didn't speak. He didn't have to. Whatever was on that crystal, it wasn't just some standard message or a warning. Not from humans, not from that ship. They hurried back inside the outpost, silent as ghosts. The corridors echoed with their footsteps. All the miners were long gone, and the silence was making Krax itch under his carapace. It felt wrong. Like the station itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to scream. In the main comm room, Thal inserted the crystal into the data reader. The console hesitated, then flickered to life, overloaded with encrypted code far beyond anything Kestran tech could handle. But it wasn't encrypted to keep people out. It was encrypted to make sure someone specific saw it. After a few flickers and loud bursts of static, a projection emerged. A hologram. Human. Female. Ilara Voss. Even though neither of them had ever seen her, they both knew instantly. The coldness in her eyes wasn't something you could mistake. She didn't blink, didn't move. Just stared straight ahead, as if time had frozen for her alone. Then she spoke. "If you're seeing this, then the Vindicator has passed you by. Consider yourselves fortunate." Her voice was low and deliberate, like a calm before a storm. Every word was chosen like a weapon. "This is not a threat. It is a notice. You are now in possession of a council-sanctioned artifact, the Watch List." Thal leaned forward. "The what?" Krax's stomach sank. He knew that term. Old rumors, half-whispers from political offices and underground resistance channels. The Watch List wasn't real. It was a myth, a secret document listing every regime, fleet commander, warlord, or scientist deemed too dangerous, corrupt, or cruel by humanity's hidden authorities, too dangerous to coexist. "The list is not a demand for surrender," Ilara continued. "It's a final audit. Each name, each location, has been vetted by human intelligence, cross-referenced with 17 different species' war crime records, and double-confirmed by AI historical reconstructions." The projection changed. Dozens of names began to scroll. Species, homeworlds, fleet coordinates. Some Krax recognized instantly. Admiral Kareth of the Ulax fleet, known for purging refugee ships. Chancellor Brevin, who sold out his own citizens to an insectoid plague just to save face. Even members of the council itself appeared, their names glowing red. "This is not justice," Ilara said. "This is balance. You tipped it. We are correcting it." Krax stepped back, jaw tightening. "They're not negotiating. They're executing." Thal was pale, eyes wide as he watched the names keep scrolling. "There's hundreds of them." Ilara's voice took a darker tone now. "If your species is listed, your leadership will receive one warning, one chance. Evacuate your people. Dismantle your weapons. Cease expansion." The hologram flickered briefly, as if something far more monstrous was trying to bleed through the transmission. "If they do not," she said, "they'll disappear." Quietly, like the Vuldari. Krax felt his knees buckle slightly. This isn't war anymore. It's something else, something worse. Thal turned to him. "They're not trying to win a war. They're trying to end the game entirely." Then the feed paused. A soft beep, a blinking line at the bottom of the screen. New message incoming. Unlike the crystal feed, this one came in live. And it wasn't Ilara this time. It was another human, An old man, bald, no uniform, just a dark sweater and sunken eyes. He looked tired, worn. "My name is Tobias Rann. I used to be a diplomat. I tried to stop this. I failed." His voice cracked halfway through, and Krax felt something inside his chest tighten. "They pushed us, laughed at us, took what they wanted from our borders, told us we didn't belong among the stars. Then when we built the Vindicator, they screamed we were monsters." He leaned closer to the camera. "You taught us how to be cruel. You taught us what silence buys." The message ended. The console shut down completely. Power surged, then collapsed. Darkness swept through the comm room. Only the crystal remained glowing. Outside, the stars were still. No ships, no weapons, no signs of the Vindicator. Just the weight of a galaxy learning it had finally gone too far. The crystal still pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat that wouldn't quit. Krax didn't move. Neither did Thal. For a long moment, both stood in silence, soaking in the cold dread that clung to the room like a second skin. The console was fried, completely dead. Even backup power refused to spark. Whatever the humans had done when they shut off the transmission, it was permanent. "Can we even send this to the council?" Thal finally asked, voice hoarse. Krax looked at him with tired, heavy eyes. "And tell them what? That the bogeyman is real? That the Vindicator handed us the execution list for the entire ruling elite?" Thal didn't answer. He didn't need to. Because there was no version of this where the council believed them or acted on it. They would bury it, like they buried everything else the humans tried to say before, and this time, the humans weren't going to talk again. They would act. Krax stepped forward, gently taking the crystal from the console. It was still warm. "We're not sending it to the council," he said. "We're delivering it, in person." Thal's eyes widened. "That's suicide. They'll kill the messenger just to keep this buried." "Maybe," Krax said. "But maybe if they see the truth before the sky burns, something changes. Just once." But deep down, Krax knew. The council wouldn't act. They never had. They thought their wealth, their fleets, their alliances would shield them. They hadn't understood humans were never playing the same game. And this wasn't diplomacy anymore. This was a reckoning. 2 jumps away, in a shadowed sector humans called the Dead Ark, Vindicator floated in silence. Inside its core, Captain Ilara Voss stood before a wall of projections, each name from the watch list displayed with full dossiers. Her expression never changed. Not at the details of genocide, not at the images of families burned in planetary strikes, not even at the weeping pleas of politicians recorded on secret channels. She had seen it all. Over and over, for years. This wasn't about revenge, that would be personal. This was about pattern recognition. She turned to her XO, a scarred man named Radek, once a field surgeon during the Earth-Kalari Wars. "Target status?" she asked. Radek nodded. 3 watchlist entries neutralized. 2 surrendered before contact. 1 entire fleet stood down after seeing our signature on long-range scan. Ilara nodded once. "And the moon?" "The Drexy retrieved the crystal, just like we planned. Our ship retracted without direct contact. Observers confirmed they found the transmission. And? They're headed to the council now." Ilara's eyes didn't blink. "Let them." The command deck of Vindicator wasn't like other ships. No flashing lights, no chatter, just silent efficiency. Half the crew were enhanced humans. The rest were something else. Men and women who had been broken by war, left behind by Earth's forgotten treaties, and brought back not for justice, but for purpose. The ship wasn't powered by any single drive system. It moved through space like thought, slipping between conventional engines and experimental tech harvested from a dozen fallen empires. It could appear anywhere, disappear instantly. Its systems read minds before orders were spoken. But its most dangerous weapon wasn't its guns. It was what it represented. Proof. Proof that humanity had evolved into something the galaxy had never prepared for. A species willing to do the unthinkable to stop the inevitable. "Next target?" Ilara asked, her voice calm. Radek tapped a command. A system appeared in red. 3 inhabited worlds, 1 orbital station, a private fleet owned by a Zolari trade lord known for slave colonies and funding border terrorism. Council protected. Ilara stared at the name glowing on the display. Sarix, the bond keeper. "Is he on the watch list?" Radek nodded. "Third column, priority red." "Any children on those colonies?" "Not anymore. Moved them off planet last cycle. He knows we're coming." Ilara's jaw tightened. "Good. That means he'll understand why we don't stop." The lights dimmed. The Vindicator began its slow shift into jump phase, humming with quiet menace. At that same moment, across the stars, dozens of hidden human ships, sisters to Vindicator, smaller but just as lethal, received their silent signal. They activated. The list had started moving. And the galaxy? Still believed humans were a minor threat. That would change. Very soon. Council Hall always smelled like fear. But today, it reeked of something worse. Denial. Krax stood in the center of the chamber, hands behind his back, flanked by 2 silent guards who looked more ceremonial than protective. Thal was beside him, clutching the data crystal like a relic from a forgotten god. Around them, the semicircular hall buzzed with hushed voices, murmurs bleeding between languages. Every council member was present, 58 of them, seated on thrones of ego and comfort, staring down like judges at an execution. Above their heads, a giant holodisplay flickered with the opening frames of the watch list, paused and pixelated for dramatic effect. "Outlandish," hissed High Speaker Vereen, a silver-plated Altari with venom for a tongue. "Fabricated or worse, human propaganda. This is a threat to galactic order." "It's a warning," Krax said, voice echoing across the chamber. "One you've ignored before. Don't ignore it now." Several councilors scoffed. A Zentari general chuckled under his breath, but others were quieter. Eyes darted between names on the list. Some knew people there, some were on it. Thal stepped forward, timid but burning with urgency. "The humans aren't bluffing. We saw the ship. We saw the message. You're not at war with a faction. You're standing in front of a movement, and they've already started." High Speaker Vereen waved a hand. "The Drexy are known for exaggeration. You're miners, not diplomats. You saw a shadow and now you bring us fairy tales?" Krax's jaw tightened. "You think this is a game?" "No," came a quiet voice from the back of the hall. Everyone turned. Councillor Juna of the Marax Collective, the oldest race on the council, stood slowly, her crystal skin shimmering under the light. "It's not a game," she said. "It's judgment." The room went still. "I've lived through 6 galactic uprisings," she continued. "I've seen species rise, fall, vanish, but I've never seen a race so methodical in their retaliation. The humans, they don't want territory. They don't want resources. They want balance, and that makes them far more dangerous." "You're defending them?" Vereen snapped. "No," Juna replied. "I'm respecting them." A silence followed, heavy as gravity. For a moment, it seemed like the council might actually listen. Then came the alarm. A piercing siren shattered the tension, followed by a rush of blue lights across the ceiling. A security officer ran into the chamber, face pale, panting from sprinting across the complex. "Emergency broadcast! Unverified attack in progress. Zolari trade fleets are gone. All 5 ships vaporized within standard orbit range of planet Rendox 2. No survivors." The chamber exploded with noise. Shouts, questions, accusations. Was it pirates? Rebellion? Human action? The officer nodded grimly. Transponder logs confirm Vindicator signature detected 5 minutes before impact. No weapon discharge detected, just detonation. Total systems failure across all Zolari vessels. Krax stared into the chaos. They're not waiting for you to debate anymore. Vareen turned on him, eyes wild. You brought this upon us. You triggered them. No, Thal said, stepping forward. You did, years ago. You just didn't notice until now. Juna raised her voice again. They're not just targeting war criminals. They're targeting silence, complicity, cowards. And then, over the entire chamber's emergency broadcast channel, a transmission interrupted every screen. It was Ilara Voss. No warning, no preamble, just her, standing against the shadows of her warship, eyes locked on every counselor through the feed. You've been heard, she said, and you've been weighed. She raised a single hand, and the hollow behind her showed a star system's tactical map, highlighting 5 other planets. 5 more names, 5 more lies to erase. Then the feed cut. Silence again. Real silence. Vareen sat back, sweat pooling under his armor. They wouldn't destroy entire systems. They don't need to, Krax said. They only need to destroy you. The council dissolved into chaos. Not the kind with yelling and dramatic exits. Something colder, sharper. Silent glances, whispered comms to private fleets, hidden signals to off-world bunkers. Every one of them knew what the message meant, even if they pretended otherwise. The humans weren't coming for war. They were coming for individuals. It wasn't about conquest. It was personal, precise, surgical. A purge, not a campaign. Krax watched them scatter like rats in a burning ship, and for the first time, he didn't feel fear. He felt something closer to grim satisfaction. The illusion of their power was cracking. Finally, Vareen leaned toward his console, sweat glistening on his metallic cheek plates. We'll authorize strike teams, anti-human protocols, hunt them down like vermin before they destabilize everything. Juna's voice cut in like a blade. You try to hunt them now and they'll burn every last trace of your name from the stars. No one argued, because she wasn't wrong. Across the edge of the Helix sector, a Zolari destroyer floated in low orbit above a luxury colony on Rendox 2, or it had. A few hours earlier, it was a gleaming symbol of Zolari influence, impenetrable, arrogant, armed to the teeth. Now it was a shell, a husk. The command bridge had melted from within, systems fried not by traditional EMP but a virus, a thought weapon, coded and broadcast through exotic radiation. No defense existed for it. No one knew how the humans had even discovered the technique. Bodies still sat in their chairs, unmoving. No burns, no wounds, just gone. Only the ship's Central A I had managed a final message before disintegration. One word. Acknowledged. Back on Vindicator, Ilara Voss reviewed the fallout silently. No gloating, no celebration. Just quiet confirmation that another link in the chain had been broken. Report? She asked. Radek stood near her, arms crossed. 5 targets eliminated. 2 confirmed watch list. 1 was an opportunist, caught harboring the others. No civilian losses. We jammed orbital transport before entry. Council response? Scrambling fleets to protect their integrity, whatever that means. Some defectors already transmitting to us. Names? Radek handed her a datapad. You'll want to see the top of that list. Ilara read it, then smiled for the first time in weeks. Counselor Vareen's personal security chief had sent the message. It read, I was loyal. I stayed silent. He sold children to buy mining rights on Varast. I want to testify. I want to live. I have everything recorded. Please. I don't want to die for him. Ilara's smile vanished. She nodded to Radek. Send him the location of our relay station. Let's see how far loyalty runs when their thrones start to wobble." Radek hesitated. "And when we're done? When the list is finished?" Ilara looked out the viewport. The stars stretched endlessly, cold and quiet. "Then we build a new list," she said. Krax and Thal left council space within the cycle. No goodbyes, no thank you. The council offered them nothing, no protection, no honors, no transportation, just a soft, "you are dismissed," like they'd just been tools, pawns in a war the old powers still refused to understand. But that was fine. They had seen the truth, and now they had a new purpose. On board a rusted merchant freighter bound for neutral space, Thal finally broke the silence. "You think we'll be safe?" Krax didn't answer immediately. Then he reached into his coat and pulled out the crystal, still glowing, still warm. "No," he said. "But maybe we don't need to be safe anymore." Thal nodded slowly. "Maybe we just need to be useful." Krax turned to the ship's console and opened a new channel. Encrypted. Hidden. Dangerous. He transmitted a message into the void. No names, no signatures. Just coordinates. And one line, "We believe in the balance. Tell Captain Voss we want in." The reply came 6 hours later. No voice, no image, just a single line of text that appeared on their freighter's cracked console, written in the unmistakable cadence of someone who no longer spoke in politics, but in precision. "Balance is earned, not claimed. Your trial begins at Arkan's grave. If you survive, we'll talk." Krax stared at it, his mandibles twitching slightly. Thal looked nervous already. "Arkan's grave?" he asked. "That's a dead system. No sun, no charts. It doesn't even show up on most nav maps." "Exactly why they use it," Krax muttered. They changed course immediately. No second-guessing. Krax had already decided. This wasn't a plea for mercy anymore. It was a choice. Either sit back and let the galaxy decay like it always had, or become part of the cleansing fire that was coming. It wasn't morality anymore. It was survival on new terms. And maybe justice, just not the Council's version of it. Arkan's grave was worse than Thal imagined. No sun meant no warmth, no gravity wells, no time markers. Just an endless spread of shattered planets, broken moons, and ancient wreckage frozen in eternal drift. Dozens of ships floated lifelessly, their hulls rusted, torn, or melted by forgotten weapons. Some had markings from extinct species, others bore signs of recent violence. They floated in silence, lit only by the eerie glow of a collapsed gas giant that shimmered faintly in the distance. As their ship entered the field, proximity alarms went wild. Krax shut them off. "If they wanted us dead, we wouldn't have gotten this far." Thal tried to smile. Failed. A voice crackled through the comm system, feminine, sharp, filtered through distortion. "You are entering trial space. Coordinates received. Do not deviate. Do not transmit. You are now part of the test." "Test?" Thal whispered. Their course updated automatically. Their controls locked. Manual override failed. They weren't flying the ship anymore. The ship was flying them. The freighter twisted through asteroid fields tighter than any sane pilot would attempt. They skimmed wrecks that floated like ghosts just inches away. Some were split open with strange organic weapons, others punctured clean through with surgical precision. A graveyard, yes, but also a museum of vengeance. Then the ship stopped. No sound. Ahead of them hung a vessel, far smaller than Vindicator, but unmistakably human. Its name blinked slowly on their scanner. Judicator. Another one of the Phantom ships, sleek, matte black, with no visible propulsion system and no external weapons. "Docking permitted," said the voice. "Trial begins on contact." The docking clamp extended. Krax turned to Thal. "You sure about this?" Thal's hands trembled. "Number, but I think we passed the point of sure a while ago." They crossed the threshold together. Inside, it was cold. Not just temperature. Presence. The air itself felt thick, like grief. The lighting was low, and there were no crew visible. Just one long corridor leading into darkness, lit only by dim blue strips. Then a voice spoke. Not over the comms, but inside their minds. "Every planet has its secrets. Every empire has its graves. What makes humanity dangerous is that we dig them up." Krax shivered. He didn't know if it was AI or something worse. They walked. Along the corridor, projections lit up as they passed. Flashes of past atrocities, names from the watch list, images of children, scorched colonies, broken oaths. It was overwhelming. Not just to see, but to feel. As if the ship itself was forcing them to confront every consequence of their species' silence. Then they entered a chamber. Empty. No furniture. No screens. Just a single man standing in the center, middle-aged, unarmed, calm. "You asked to be useful," he said. "Then prove you understand what's at stake." Krax opened his mouth, but the man raised a hand. No speeches, no apologies, one question. He walked forward and stopped just feet from them. "If you had the power to erase every corrupt leader, every war criminal, every trafficker and tyrant, without trial, without warning, just erase them, would you do it?" Silence. Thal's voice cracked. "That's murder." The man tilted his head. "That's justice, if the law has failed." He turned to Krax. "Well?" Krax didn't hesitate. "I would," he said. "And I'd sleep better knowing they were gone." The man nodded once. "Then maybe you're ready." A hatch opened behind him. Two figures stepped through, human, armored, marked with the black emblem of Vindicator. No names, no ranks, just presence. "You're not council informants," one of them said. "You're survivors. Survivors who stopped running." The man gestured to the hatch. "Welcome to the grave path," he said. "Next stop, a world that needs cleansing." Krax and Thal looked at each other and stepped through. The shuttle that carried them from Judicator to their first deployment was unlike anything Krax or Thal had ever flown in. It didn't hum. It didn't rattle. It moved like a ghost through space, utterly silent, as if reality itself bent politely around it. No visible propulsion, no controls. Just one narrow bench and the soft hum of hidden systems processing more data than most governments had access to. A small screen activated in front of them, displaying their mission. Target, Governor Trell Vorn, species, Nalkari location, Outpost 9, Junar Belt. Status, watch list verified crimes, slave trafficking, planetary resource theft, bombing of refugee convoys. Krax read the dossier in silence, his fists clenched so tightly the knuckles on his exoskin cracked audibly. Thal, however, looked ill. "He's under council protection. That outpost is a stronghold." "Was," corrected one of the black-armored agents seated across from them. Her face was hidden behind her helmet, but her voice carried the sharpness of someone who had stopped caring about diplomacy long ago. "The moment the watch list went active, he became a target. The council won't protect him now. They'll distance themselves." "What's the play?" Krax asked. She turned toward him slowly. "We make an example." Outpost 9 was a fortress built into an asteroid so old it had no recorded name, just a numerical designation. It had shield cannons, long-range defense satellites, and a private security force trained by council-funded mercenaries. None of that mattered. The humans had already infiltrated its systems before the shuttle even arrived. Security feeds looped false footage. Sensor arrays fed fake telemetry. By the time the shuttle landed on a service dock disguised as a cargo vessel, the station didn't even realize its final guests had arrived. Inside, chaos was already blooming. Somehow, no one quite understood how, Every civilian comm terminal in the outpost began flashing a simple, chilling message. Governor Trell Vorn, watchlist confirmed, balance imminent. People panicked. Guards rushed to the governor's chambers. By then, it was far too late. Krax, Thal, and 2 operatives moved through maintenance corridors with surgical precision, guided by the AI that lived within the human ship's network, a presence known only as Shade. It whispered directions directly into their minds. Turn left. Guards approaching, stun only. Vorn is 4 levels below. Elevator access compromised. Use shaft E77. Krax never asked how Shade knew. He just obeyed. When they reached the governor's private bunker, it was already unlocked. Vorn sat inside, pale and trembling, his once gold robes clutched in his fists like they might protect him from death. He knew who they were. "I was just following trade policy," he stammered. "You can't judge me like this. I'm protected. Council law." Thal stepped forward before Krax could. "Council law is what let you sell children for minerals?" Vorn tried to bolt. He didn't get far. The human agent raised her hand, and a pulse of dark energy wrapped around him, freezing his nervous system with microscopic precision. He didn't die. Not yet. Instead, he was paralyzed, conscious and awake as his entire databank of crimes, every message, every transaction, every bribe, was downloaded from his implant and broadcast back to the outpost's comm towers. The message reached billions, and just before the humans left, the final step came. They didn't kill him. They left him on the central plaza, shackled, branded, with one last message projected above him in bold human script. This is balance. The list is real. The reckoning has begun. By the time Council forces arrived 3 hours later, Vindicator and its crew were already gone. Not a trace left behind, not even heat signatures. Just fear, just truth, just the growing realization that something old had awakened inside humanity. A willingness to do what others wouldn't, to clean up the galaxy by force, not to rule it, but to reset it. Back aboard the Judicator, Krax stood at the viewport, watching the stars shift around them. He wasn't a soldier, not really. Neither was Thal. But they were now part of something bigger, something irreversible, something righteous. Thal stepped beside him. "You think we'll ever go back?" Krax didn't look away from the stars. "Back to what?" Thal didn't answer. Because there was no back anymore, only forward. And ahead of them? The next name on the list.